Welcome to On the Issues. I'm your host, Nicholas Ballasy, live at the Democratic presidential debate for the 2008 election. Behind me, you can see there are supporters from all the campaigns supporting all the different candidates, and they're cheering right now for Chris Matthews on Hardball. Hardball is live right here in Philadelphia at Drexel University. We're going to be talking to hopefully potential candidates, but we've been talking to political officials in Philadelphia, the state of Pennsylvania, talking about all the issues that are going to be discussed tonight in the debate. Basically, with a moderate force like Rudy Giuliani climbing up the polls, do you see Pennsylvania remaining a blue state in this coming election, or will they have a tough time?
No, I do. I think I have a lot of respect for Mayor Giuliani. He was a good mayor, and of course, I think of myself still as a mayor. But he's taken positions in this campaign to try to appeal to the base, which I think will make it very difficult for him to win a state like Pennsylvania or New Jersey. For example, although he supposedly says he still respects a woman's right to choose, he said that he would appoint Supreme Court justices who are strict constructionalists like Clarence Thomas and Anton Scalia. Now, you're not going to fool pro-choice voters in the Philadelphia suburbs or the New Jersey suburbs. That's a clear message saying, don't worry, I have to say that I'm still pro-choice because I don't want to flip-flop, but I'll appoint judges who are going to overturn Roe versus Wade. It's a clear message. He's been with President Bush every step of the way on the war. He's had the opportunity to say, look, it's time to decide that we can't militarily affect what's happened in Iraq, so it's time to bring our troops home. But he hasn't had the courage to do that. He stayed lockstep with the president on Iraq, and therefore it's going to create a tremendous amount of trouble for him here among independent voters and moderate Republicans who want us the heck out of Iraq. So I think on issue after issue after issue, you know that gay Republicans are outraged now. They claim he's sliding away from his stand of pro-gay rights. So
now, for tonight's debate, what kind of issues are you looking forward to hearing about in relation to Pennsylvania?
Well, I would love to hear a discussion of urban issues. The debate, I think this is the first debate in a big city, and I'd love to hear issues like housing, like crime and education. I'd like to hear those issues discussed by the candidates at length. I haven't heard a word about crime in any of these debates, nothing about housing, and very, very little, nothing about the subprime mortgage crisis, and very, very little about education. So because we're in a big city, I hope we'll focus the debate more on urban issues. I'm not sure that's going to happen.
And any other thoughts on the crime in Philadelphia? Anything that you would recommend putting in place to help this issue?
Well, I think we've got to go back up to the number of police officers that we had when I was mayor. We had 7,100 policemen, and that allowed us to have a lot more coverage on the street. Now, in fairness, Mayor Street has had difficult budget times, different economy, and that's made it very difficult for him to keep the amount of police that we need. But I think it's the first thing that a city can do. If a city's not safe, nothing else is anything important. So we've got to deal with the crime problem.
Your reaction to the president's veto of the health care bill that's being trying to put through? Because I know in Pennsylvania you've been trying to put through everything, and you have put through the universal health care.
For children, right.
For children.
I think it's most unfortunate, and I think it absolutely showed where the priorities are of this administration. We can pump, I think the GSA said, over $3.5 trillion to continue this war over the next decade. We have money to do that, but we don't have $25 billion, a tiny fraction of that sum, to ensure that every child in America has health care. It shows that the priorities are really out of whack, and we've got to do something about it.
What do you feel that it does for the city having this debate here?
Well, it brings a tremendous amount of positive attention to Philadelphia. I think it demonstrates again that Philadelphia and Pennsylvania are a very important city and a state in the whole presidential election. But it's also a wonderful opportunity for Philadelphians and people throughout the country, of course, to hear about the issues in an urban environment, in a metropolitan area, fifth largest city in America. The issues that affect Philadelphia can be addressed by the federal government. Issues of poverty, issues of crime, education, jobs, and how you create a thriving, growing economy right in our cities. Issues of infrastructure, job training, ex-offenders, all of these issues the federal government can certainly help us with. In the previous administration, we had the COPS program, put more officers on the street. You saw instant decreases in crime all across America. The federal government keeps talking about homeland security, but many of us don't feel secure in our own hometown. And so we have to get some answers to these questions, and I'm hopeful that the presidential candidates will address the fact that the federal government has been disinvesting in cities all across America.
As a candidate who has a great chance of being elected, if you are elected to mayor of Philadelphia, what do you expect from the federal government on an issue like Homeland Security?
What I expect is that cities should get more support, not only for terrorist-related issues, but also, again, in Philadelphia, we have a serious crime problem that we're trying to come to grips with. Supporting more police officers on the street, better utilizing technology and helping us to acquire it and pay for it. Using some of the most sophisticated software systems and computer programs will help us address the crime issue. There are a number of things the federal government can do to help, but as far as I'm concerned, they've almost abandoned cities across America, certainly including Philadelphia.
So what's your prediction tonight for the debate?
That if the Democrats don't start debating this war, they're crazy. It's the hottest issue in the country right now, and this patty cake that's been going on for the last several months is a waste. The voters of the Democratic Party have made it clear in the last election they want this war over with, and I don't hear the candidates really discussing this. Hillary Clinton's position is hard to tell right now. She's been very safely in the middle, somewhere between the Hawks and the Doves. Obama has been unable to raise the issue effectively against her so far. If he does it tonight, it'll be interesting, but he hasn't done it yet.
Are you surprised that some of the other candidates, like Dodd and other candidates like that, haven't
They've been screwed, basically. They're screwed. Because those candidates are stuck behind Obama and Edwards, who are not able to take on Hillary. They have been dogs in the manger. They're sitting there. They're keeping the other candidates from getting near Hillary because they keep promising they're going to take her on, but they don't. And so these guys like Dodd, who's a very effective person, senator, and Biden, who could be a really serious candidate, and Richardson certainly, these guys are unable to get to Hillary because of this buffer here of Barack and Edwards. But you know, there's a term, dog in a manger. You're taking up space. They haven't been able to take her on. For some reason, Obama thinks he's fighting Alan Keyes here. You know who Alan Keyes was? Yeah, the guy he knocked off, the carpetbagger in Illinois. He doesn't understand he's taking on the Clintons. When you say to the American people, I'm going to take on the Clintons, that's an awesome, daunting challenge to yourself. And if you're not going to really do it, maybe you shouldn't be in the business. He's taking on the Clintons. Does he know it? If he wants to lose, he's got it figured out. He's now running 17 points. That's what Jackson had in that campaign in 84 and 88. 17 points. Come on, that's nothing. He should be in this race.
As supporters line up before the debate tonight, the question still remains, will Senator Obama be able to distinguish himself from Senator Hillary Clinton? We're on the street interviewing supporters before the debate. Why Barack?
I'll tell you why. In 2003, Barack Obama knew exactly what was going to happen with this war. Whereas Hillary was voting to support Bush's evil empire, Obama foresaw the Civil War and said, let's not get into this stupidity. And he's the only one who can bring our nation back up to the status that it deserves around the world.
She's a really good public speaker, and I mean, Obama might have captured the younger generation, but everyone else loves Hillary, so she's going to win by a landslide.
Does it bother any of her supporters, do you think, that she voted initially to authorize the war in Iraq?
You know what, at first, I think they thought that she may have thought it was right, but, with all the killing of the troops over in Iraq or whatever, I think that's a good change for her to make, you know what I mean? And I'm behind her all the way. Bring the troops home.
We want to know why you're representing Ron Paul here today.
Because he supports the U.S. Constitution, which has been just not followed at all. No one supports this Constitution anymore. Freedoms have been...
Meant to be rewritten. That's why we're human beings. beings. That's why.
Our freedoms have been abused because of the people in office who have support non-constitutional ideas. Ron Paul is for the Constitution. He is for people's freedom, for the U.S. economy, for saving the dollar, which has declined so much over the years.
As I sat in the press room analyzing the debate with journalists from around the country, Hillary Clinton was forced to answer the hardest questions yet in her campaign.
But there was a letter written by President Clinton specifically asking that any communication between you and the president not be made available to the public until 2012. Would you lift that ban?
Well, that's not my decision to make, and I don't believe that any president or first lady ever has, but certainly we'll move as quickly as our circumstances and the processes of the National Archives permits.
Senator Obama was the first to capitalize on Russert's question to his advantage.
We have just gone through one of the most secretive administrations in our history. And not releasing, I think, these records. At the same time, Hillary, as you're making the claim that this is the basis for your experience, I think is a problem. Part of what we have to do is invite the American people back to participate in their government again. Part of what we need to do is rebuild trust in our government again. And that means being open and transparent and accountable to the American people. Part of the reason that Republicans, I think, are obsessed with you, Hillary, is because that's a fight they're very comfortable having. It is the fight that we've been through since the 90s. And part of the job of the next president is to break the gridlock and to get Democrats and independents and Republicans to start working together to solve these big problems like health care or climate change or energy. And what we don't need is another 8 years of bickering.
Attacks led by Senator Obama seemed to put Senator Clinton on the ropes, but it may not be enough to convince Democrats that he is more prepared to serve as president. My main question for you would be, you talked about impeachment.
I will say it one more time. It's time for the Democratic Party to take a position on impeachment.
Why did you call for that? What do you feel is the premise for that?
An illegal war against Iraq, a war that was based on lies. The vice president played a major role in taking us to war. We had no right to attack Iran. Iran did not attack us. Iraq did not attack us. Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction. Iraq didn't have the intention of attacking us or the capability. They had nothing to do with 9/11 or Al-Qaeda's role in 9/11. We really have to stand for the truth. He lied. The president lied. They should both be subject to removal from office. That war has resulted in the deaths of almost 3,000 American troops, of over 1 million innocent Iraqis. If that isn't a cause for impeachment, I don't know why impeachment's in the Constitution, except to restrain the abuse of executive power, and that's why the founders put it in there. And wait, one other thing. And also, they're talking about attacking Iran. And the fact of the matter is that planning an attack on another nation is a violation of international law.
Now, we understand that in the 2002 authorization, there were some things about sending inspectors in and waiting for the inspectors. But why do you feel some Democrats still voted for the war, knowing the president could wage war militarily?
That's a good question. That's a question that Senator Edwards and Senator Clinton should be made to answer. It's not enough to say you're sorry, because the same flawed judgment that led John Edwards to vote for the war against Iraq is the same flawed judgment that led him say in a speech over a year ago of Iran, all options are on the table. Now, as George Bush gets closer to war, he's backtracking. When you license something like that, you've got to be careful about what you say. The President of the United States must be temperate in his words when you're talking about war. And this president has already taken all the things that Congress has passed as a license for war. And we are in a serious situation when you have B-2 bombers being retrofitted for 30,000-pound bombs, and are talking about dropping those bombs on nuclear research facilities. To me, they're preparing to execute a crime against humanity, and it has to be called that. This is wrong. This isn't what this country is supposed to be about. We're not supposed to be about preemptive war. Our founders put Article 2, Section 4 in the Constitution to protect against what they call the dog of war. Yet this administration is not restrained by Congress, which has taken impeachment so-called off the table, and they put the war back on the table.
A lot of the candidates have different specific plans on the war in Iraq and how to end the war. What do you feel is the Democratic Party's national stance on this war to communicate it to the American people?
Well, I'm going to leave that to the candidates. I think each candidate's responsible for laying out their own plan. So I don't want to lay out an eighth plan. I try not to insert myself into the campaign, and so generally after debates I don't comment on the issues because people assume that I'm therefore commenting on the candidates.
If like the average American says, we wanted to end this war for the Democratic Congress and the war is still not over, what do you feel from the Democratic Party? What in general is their stance on the war in Iraq?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. Every single one of the Democrats running for president has a plan to get us out of Iraq and wants to do it quickly. Every single candidate running for president on the Republican side, with the exception of Ron Paul, who's a libertarian, wants to stay in Iraq. It's pretty clear. Every one of the Republicans thought it was a good idea to veto the president's our health care bill. Everybody on the Democratic side thought we ought to have a health care bill that covers all our kids. They all thought it was a great idea to pardon Scooter Libby. We'd like to end the culture of Republican corruption. So there's some really clear differences between every single person on that stage tonight and every single person on the Republican stage. But as far as commenting on individual candidates' plan to get out of Iraq, I don't think I should do that.
Now, what does the Democratic Congress plan to do in the future on very important issues to put them through and challenge the president?
Well, the truth of the matter is, you're not going to end the war in Iraq until we have a Democratic president, because the president has consistently vetoed the plans that we did pass. Now the minority in the Senate, the Republicans in the Senate, are preventing us from even bringing those plans up for a vote. So the conclusion is you can't get out of Iraq until you have a Democrat in the White House.
Your support for Hillary Clinton. Yes. Why are you supporting her specifically for president?
She's got the best grasp of the issues, she's got the most experience in the race, and she's got tremendous character.
What are your thoughts on the current status with illegal immigration? What can the Democrats do to put forth their agenda on illegal immigration?
Well, I think, first of all, with what Democrats have to do is recognize, as they have, that this is a serious issue that's of concern to the American people. So we've got to strengthen our grip on the borders. We've got to deal with the people that are in the country in a fair and responsible way. People that are here, I believe, should have a right to earn their citizenship, provided they've been good citizens and have behaved as good citizens and responsible citizens. People that have misbehaved shouldn't be here. And then we've got to, at the same time, we've got to really get a grip working with Canada and Mexico on our borders. It's not just a matter of how you can fence it off and be unilateral about it, but you have to work with your neighbors on it. It's a whole variety of things that need to be done. So I think you'll see under Democrats a very broad-based program that will result in a dampening of the illegal immigration and some appropriate means to bring good, well-qualified, capable people and good families into America.
What could the United States do on the defense end to help illegal immigration as far as the borders are concerned?
I mean, what could we use with defense assets? Well, I wouldn't want to use any defense assets on the border. I don't want the military involved in border security if we can avoid it. Military exists to work outside the borders.
So how do you feel that you did tonight on the debate, conveying the issues that are most important to you in the campaign?
Well, that's for you to judge, but I have a bad habit of being straightforward and blunt. The truth of the matter is that I hope I conveyed that, the problem with an awful lot of people running for president is they think issues can be viewed in isolation. The idea of this debate about whether Hillary and Barack and all this vote about Iran, it's so much bigger than Iran. The damage is already done. The mere fact of voting for that resolution pumped up the price of oil by $12. What happened? That money goes into the pocket of Ahmadinejad, it goes into the pocket of the Iranians, it goes to fund the Quds Force, goes to fund the Revolutionary Guard. We got to start thinking. We got to understand there's unintended consequences of things that we do, and it requires a much broader knowledge and grasp of what's going on in the world.
What would you like to see done on the issue of illegal immigration?
Well, I think we need a bill. It has to do three things. We got to protect our borders. That includes our ports. Number one, we aren't doing enough on that regard, and that's unrelated to illegal immigration, including illegal immigration. Now, number two, we got to fine and put in jail those employers who knowingly lure people here in order to pay them a substandard wage and violate the law. Three, we got to get the 14 million people out of the shadows, give them an earned pathway over the next 10 years to citizenship. And lastly, I would have a serious discussion with Mexico. It's the second wealthiest country in the Northern Hemisphere, actually in the hemisphere. And what are we doing? They have a basically dysfunctional system with regards to allocation of opportunity, whether it's healthcare, education, or jobs. And they're part of our problem.
Now, Senator Clinton has been the center of attention in Republican debates, making her the Democratic frontrunner. Tonight, the Democratic candidates stepped up their attacks on Clinton, raising questions about her ability to stay strong in the polls. At Drexel University, for On the Issues, I'm Nicholas Balassi, and thanks for watching.